everybody, this is MTG Nexus coming at you with a bit of a split stream tonight. Been letting people on the YouTube channel especially know that we're going to be doing some World of Warcraft content. The new expansion's getting ready to come out here in a couple of days. I think it's coming out the 26th of October, but we're going to be doing some, starting out with a new character. I do have some old characters, but I'll get into that when we do the World of Warcraft part. Those of you that are here now are here for the burn party. So we're starting out with some modern burn tonight. This is a very similar list to what we played last time out, which was a Gruul Incinerator list. A couple of things that I will note from last time is Incinerators felt very 10 or 3-ish in a lot of these things. It does feel like the meta is a little bit better to Incinerator than it has been. There's a lot less Path to Exiles, a lot less Aether Gusts out there. But that said, you know, there are still some matchups where turn 2 Incinerator isn't particularly good, especially like on the draw against Tron or some of the other matchups. You know, even things like Ad Nauseam Incinerator can be a really awkward card because, especially in the post-board games, it's hard to connect with enough damage to get a cheap Incinerator into play. So, I decided to test another card that I've done in some different versions in Bonecrusher Giant here. Not exactly a modern burn staple at this point, but Hayashi has definitely done a lot of work in his hybridization burn prowess decks with some Bonecrusher Giants. That's part of the reason we're trying it out. I know Poseidon's been doing a little bit of work with it. I really haven't had a chance to catch up on his streams yet to see how he's doing with those. I think he said it's been kind of good, not great. A serviceable card in some spots. I've certainly been impressed with it in the Boros shells where we were playing Vortex main, but this is obviously a little bit different version, a little bit more closer to a traditional burn list. Obviously there are some differences. We're still playing the green splash as opposed to the white splash, except with the exception of the Path to Exiles and the sideboard. Seal of Fire, once again, kind of explained this. One of the problems I've had with Boros in some points is the fact that Boros can be very hit or miss with being able to cast all your spells in a timely manner, especially as you get into like the 16 and 20 count 2-mana spells. You know, if you don't hit your 3rd and 4th land, sometimes you're going to fail to get all your spells out of your hand in a timely manner, and in racing situations and a lot of other things that can really matter. Seal of Fire also gives you another play on 1 that allows you to answer opposing creatures, especially in game 1 where you have just usually Bolt and that's it for turn number 1. Allows you to have a better chance to answer a quick Mana Dork or something. Also relevant in the Prowess mirrors or against Prowess and Burn, allowing you to answer a turn 1 Swift Spear or turn 1 Goblin Guide without taking multiple shots from it, especially if you're on the draw. Riftbolt and Skewer the Critics. Obviously, Riftbolt is a little bit awkward with Roiling Vortex, but can make an appearance in this version when Roiling Vortex is in the sideboard. Targus Command is kind of the fill-in for Boros Charm. They're obviously different cards in what they're trying to execute. This one does better with a wider board, or it's just kind of a Skullcrack substitute in some regards, with the upside of making your creatures bigger, and then, especially when you're playing a 16 creature build. And then beyond that, it's really just kind of your standard deck. We got 3 Sunbit Canyons. Kind of hard to fit too many into a green-red burn shell. Obviously, it'd be great if they had a green-red canyon land, but we make do with what we've got. 4 Copperline Gorges, as we are obviously concentrating more on the green splash. Beyond that, 4 copies of D-Rev. Can't understate how much better this card is than something like Smash to Smithereens or Wear Tear. Just the flexibility and dealing damage can be really nice. Won us a game, one of these leagues, by repeatedly blasting a Thassa out of the sea. You know, even though we weren't destroying it, it was dealing it damage. 3 copies of Whirling Vortex. This is kind of a nice, grindy card. Kind of the original version for this whole build was Klothys, but Klothys just feels too slow right now. Ruling Vortex kind of fills that role of like anti-life gain, a little bit of grindiness, etc. 4 copies of Relic of Progenitus. Once again, there was one particular league where I was really impressed with Relic of Progenitus. It helps shut down a number of decks in that particular league. And then obviously 4 copies of Path to Exile, Don't Leave Home Without some number of paths. You know, Tarmogoyf, Death Shadows, Scourge of the Skyridge, you know, any number of cards right now, you know, Eldrazi's, etc. So, that said, let's get rolling on these matches, as I want to have some time to kind of get into World of Warcraft a little bit later. So, but I did say that Magic would come first, so to that end, Magic is coming first. Instant matchmaking, quite nice of Magic Online here. So what you got here, friend? Okay. So we hoping for more E-Tron tonight. Sure, if you guys want some explicitives in us have to change our content level from PG to PG-13. I mean, that's your goal, sure. I still don't think E-Tron was quite as bad as last league out, but still not great. This hand is tricky. So we're on the draw. We have 2 Atarka's commands and 4 1-mana spells. I think this hand's fine, especially on the draw, so we're going to gamble a little bit and keep this one. But obviously you could put it back because we can't cast 2 of the cards in our hand and the fact we only have 1 land. But I think on the draw, even on the play, this hand has enough like going on with it that it seems fine. Immediately get paired against Death Shadow or Jund. Kind of regret our life choices, but you know. Looks like Death Shadow of some variant, maybe Prowess. Okay, well, let's go into 15. Goodbye, Goblin God. Yeah, a little bit early tonight. Couple different things going on. I'm wanting to. Well, first off, I'm off work tonight, so I'm able to get on a little bit earlier. Was part of it, and the other part is I want to make sure I have time to get into some World of Warcraft tonight after this. So, Tarmogoyf, okay. So do I kill their Tarmogoyf or do I just go face? That's really hard to read. Don't like the graphics on that one right now. So, a couple different missions at play as to why we're a little bit earlier tonight. I did say 11:30 on YouTube. That was kind of dependent on when dinner got done. So, So if I had Tarka's command this turn, we could potentially kill them next turn with a land. So I think I'm just supposed to hold up Tarka's command here. Like, we were tremendously bailed out by the fact that our opponent did themselves a ridiculous amount of damage. So the vote on the YouTube channel was to start at the beginning. So I'm actually going to start... well, here's the thing, War Dog. So I want to do kind of like a beginning rendition of the game, which is a lot harder on the main version of the game because you can't, like, play straight through the original quests that are available on Classic. So what I'm going to do is tonight we're going to start with Alliance, mainly because the when we get to the new expansion, my main character is a Horde toon, so I actually do want to play both sides of the equation for storyline purposes and such. I really want to like go through the entire lore of the game at some point. So it's kind of like I'm starting Alliance tonight, but that's not like what I'm mainly going to focus on, but just for the starting thing. Because I really haven't played much of the Alliance per se. Okay. Do you have a discard spell? You just have a traverse. But once again, main focus is still Magic, so we are doing a league before we get into that. Opponent got a forest. Interesting. Swing for still 4. Don't want to play the Atarka's Command until post-combat. Opponents can't gain life. Deals 3 damage to each creature or to each opponent. Alright, so we got the game. Outside of my opponent having Force of Negation in their Jund deck, I think we're good here. Just them dealing themselves 5 points of damage on turn 1 was just kind of backbreaking for them. Well, like I said, I try to represent the middle ground, you know? So we definitely want paths. I mean, like, I'm going to do a tour of, like, all my tunes and stuff, so you guys know that I'm mainly Horde. But there's a reason why I'm starting with the Alliance. We definitely want the 4-path to exile. They showed us Traverse. Did they show us a... I don't believe they showed us a Companion. So I don't know how hard I actually want to go on the Relic plan. I guess because they showed us Tarmogoyf, I at least want some number. On the draw, I'm not a huge fan of Eidolon, even though it is reasonable in the matchup. And then... do we shave a couple copies of Tarka's Command? Because, like, they could have Cling and they could have Collective Brutality. But that's a lot harder to line up on the draw, especially. So I think I'm actually going to shave 2 commands and kind of coward sideboard like this. Like, I don't know how good Relic is in these, like, kind of faster creature mirrors. Like, if it was traditional Jund, I'd be a lot more comfortable bringing in Relic. But in these, like... see, like, these hands are just kind of... and then I see both Relics. I still think this hand's fine. Either way, we're going to have a turn 1 play and a turn 1 answer to a creature. Turn 1 Swizzle Spear, sure. Alright, so I can actually hold off the decision to make a... let's do this main phase in case they have a mutagenic growth. So I can hold off on the decision whether I want a green source or a white source, although we do technically have more white spells in our deck right now than green spells, so we probably want to get the Sacred Foundry. But at the same time, our opponent could have like Assassin's Trophy for our land, and we'd be really sad. Sure. You have a Tarmashizzle. Guess it answers that question. So I could theoretically path here or play Swiftspear. I really don't like either play, honestly, so I'm just going to pass here. If I have to crack Relic, or have to path in response to a hand disruption spell here. Why do they play Scalding Tarn in these lists? Is it just to screw with people, or is there a particular reason why they played Scalding Tarn? Just because they're a red-based deck? Just doing the money flex, so to speak? Discard spell? Oh, Death Shadow. Okay. To flex on the poor. This is certainly a possibility. I don't think I want to take the extra damage this turn, so I'm just going to get this tapped. Because we're really not in a hurry to play Path unless we have to. It's again keeping their particular counts low. Making our job infinitely easier. Except for the fact they have another Death Shadow. Alright. We have a third one? Maybe a Scourge? Collective Brutality. Yep. Start by casting a Path. Like a bolt or a lava spike? I'm guessing we're taking a bolt. Because otherwise I could potentially kill your Death Shadow next turn. This is one of the strengths of Bonecrusher Giant, is something like Collective Brutality is just terrible. So they get a 4/5. Kind of annoying. Skewer dem critics. So 6 points of burn in hand, 8 points including Bonecrusher. If we crack the relic and find a land, we can Bonecrusher the Tarmogoyf down. I think that's the play here. I said Bonecrusher them down, not draw another Bonecrusher. But sure. What you got here, friend? Tarfire, turreting themselves. Sure. so we're dead regardless, unless we had another path, which we don't, so. Okie dokie. Artichoke. The heck of a last 2 cards to have. Once again, Tarka's command I think is fine, but like they're wanting to keep their life total kind of low anyway for their Death Shadows. They might have Scourges. Like we've seen Swift Spear, Death Shadow, and Tarmogoyf out of them. So with Tarmogoyf they might not have Scourge, but still not terrible, I suppose. I played 4 Scalding Tarn in my Modern Red Prowess deck. Well, no, I understand that. I'm just saying, if you're playing like a Jund, this hand's fairly aggressive, so pretty reasonable. But it's still kind of weird to see that many, or Scalding Tarn out of a Jund deck, you know? Like, I understand they're like a weird version of Jund, but they're still a Jund deck nonetheless. Okay. Duress. Get another card that Bonecrusher Giant's pretty good against. Relatively speaking. I still took 2 to take a 3 damage spell, so I guess overall I shouldn't be kvetching. Yeah, this is the problem with a 3 land hand, is drawing that 4th land. Still think I just played that tapped and play a Goblin Guide here. This does kind of give away the information that we probably didn't draw another relevant spell, or at least not a 1 damage spell, or a 1 casting cost card at least. So curious if my opponent goes Swift Spear into something, or if they have like Collective Brutality here. Like Brutality could be pretty bad overall. I guess not if they have to shock for it, but still pretty annoying. Okay. You have another Duress? Nope, just a Death Shadow. Cool. Still think we attack with both. There's a chance they could let both through. I really want them to block with both. But there's a chance this attack is just wrong. Because they could just go block, unblock. This goes to 5. Yeah, it looks like that's the path they're going to go here. Still think we stomp the Swift Spear here. Now it's just one versus one. So how's everyone doing tonight? Got an interesting first match here off the bat. Although us flooding out makes it a little less interesting. Sure. So what is our best draw here? Best draw would probably be a 1-mana spell. As to which one? Path to Exile, probably. Will allow us to double spell next turn and get rid of their relevant threat. I said Path to Exile, not. I'm going to attack here. If they block, it's whatever. We're dead to a Temur Battle Rage either way, so I'm not really going to worry about it. I think I played the wrong land because I think I played the land my opponent knows about. And there's a decent chance we're just dead here, so I still got to play Bonecrusher. If they target it with anything, we're dead here. Nice, War Dog. Crash through is pretty rough, sure. Just a card we knew about. Okay. We're rapidly approaching the point of lethal. They showed us Tarfire last game, so I'm not sure we can actually crack this fetch. So currently 10 points of damage getting through. Why would you Thoughtseize here? I guess that's just lethal. Arrow Falcon Wrath? Wow. Be really a shame if we had some way to punish them here. Unfortunately, we don't. So we block here. We take 11 plus, yeah, just lethal. I guess it's the risk of keeping a 3-lander and then drawing 3 more lands. You know, one of the things with, you know, one of the weaknesses of the Gruul-based version of the deck is the fact that we can't play as many Canopy lands, so the Flood Out is definitely more realistic, a la like a Wild Nikado build or something. We're against Will Pulliam, so probably up against Amulet. Nope. Basic Plains go. I think with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and crack this and play my Goblin God. Looks like we're up against Mono White, maybe? Alright, so your Stoneforge Mystic is dying. Got our Beater Skull. Trigger. Another Path to Exile. Opponent will. Is there a reason to hold up Bolt this turn? What would be a reason to hold up Bolt this turn cycle, as opposed to just casting a Lava Spike? I guess it really doesn't matter. We can just respond to a Thalia. So, okay, looks like we are up against Death and Twaxes here. Make the trade. You know you wanna. There you go. Okie dokie. And if you tap that Sunbay Canyon, you're just dead. Sucks to be. Jeff for 3. Bolt you. No reason to play the Swizzle Spear here. Just gonna do the thing. Do the thing. Hold up Bolt. Didn't realize you were running Arrow Falcon Wrath in that deck too. It's kind of crazy. Let's grab a mountain. Hopefully they just go land, slam, batter, skull. Flicker Wisp, not particularly relevant here. Does get to flicker their land, which means they have a painless path to exile. In the end, it didn't really matter. Is there anything to play around in the main deck of a mono white Death and Taxes deck? I don't think so. I guess we just pass the turn, let them do whatever. Like, we have 2 instant speed spells that kill them if they crack their canopy land. Yeah, in response to that... Bolt you. Alright, so now we are up against Death and Taxes with a Stoneforge Mystic package. So, we definitely want the paths. Probably Eidolon's out. D-Rev in some numbers, but I don't want to go overly crazy on the card because we didn't see Vial out of them. Now, obviously, we can presume there's a Vial somewhere in their pile, but Gruul draws Vampire? Defugerin? You are definitely busting out some interesting things. Oh, Reggie, yeah, Reggie I can understand. Anywho, D-Rev out. Riftbolt or Skewer here? I guess Riftbolt. Maybe it's supposed to be Skewer. I'm not really sure on that one. One, two, three, four. 4 lands. Mulligan. 1, 2. Keep this hand. Put back Lava Spike. Make sure you crack your fetch lands against Death and Taxes always, because Land and Arbiter is a pain to play around. We hand them a land, which isn't ideal. Problem is, the post-board games against this deck get so rough because they have so many cards that are just so great against us. We will try to bolt the Thalia first thing. Hopefully they don't have a Burrington Forge Tender to protect it, or a Selfless Savior. And they probably do. Giver of Runes. Okay, that Odd timing on your Giver of Runes, but okay. So you get to draw a Sword of Fire and Chisel, or otherwise known as Protection from our deck. Guess Thalia. Yep. Now we're in a really awkward spot. I guess the positive news is they can't bring in a... they can't play their sword the way things are currently situated. Except for if they have Stoneforge Mystic. Yep. So now they just get to quit Batterskull and go to town on us. So we need to draw a third land plus D-Rev. Gotta go after the Giver of Runes here first. Yep, give Thalia protection, that's fine. Okay, we draw the third land. Problem is we can't cast anything else this turn. And then they just get to play Batterskull and kind of go to town here. This costs 3, this costs 4, this costs 4. Wow. Get an Arbiter. Hits just keep on coming. You're beginning to see why this is such a nightmare for a burn deck, especially in the post-board games. You definitely have to get game 1 because game 2 and game 3 are really rough. Taking the hit, checking it twice. Need to rip one of our 2 D-Revs tonight. And hope they don't have a GQ post-game. Path isn't terrible here. Question is, what would we actually be pathing, though? This is where Thalia constraining us is such a pain in the bookie. They could have Flicker Wisp too now. I'm just going to pass the turn. Playing on Bonecrushering the Thalia. Hoping that goes well, and then pathing the Germ Token, I guess. Yeah, they get to bring in the sword, which is pretty much lights out for us. I guess 6 cent. They have a Flicker Wisp here to boot. Nope. Skyline Apparition. Alright, I think on that note, I'm going to go ahead and concede here. Conceal some amount of information. I don't think they saw Bonecrusher Giant from us last game. And also, bring the other 2 copies of D-Rev. Bring Roof Bolts back in. I think it's actually Skewers out here. Just they're so clunky and awkward without being able to trigger them. Once again, you know, the risk of D-Rev, you know, is that they don't have an artifact hand. 2 hand, yeah, I think this hand's a keep. Pretty easily a keep. It's not particularly aggressive, and it is going to deal us quite a bit of damage. But it does have both of our colors and quite a bit of interaction, so... Path is obviously not ideal in these matchups, but... Be funny if he keeps a Ether Vial hand and we rip AD Rev. But once again, we're not the most aggressive of hands, so we can't really trade resources with them to... I mean, this is more of an attrition hand than a aggression hand. Opponent kept 5. I think because of the nature of our hand, I am going to go ahead and suspend Rift Bolt here. That way if they're on like a Giver of Ruins hand without Ether Vial, we just get to dome it, but looks like they're going to save whatever is going on there. Another fetch land's kind of nice. Playing the second fetch land is like not quite as big deal because they're on the draw here. Yeah, like Arbiter here, we just get to tag for free, which is nice. Oh, crapola. I'm an idiot. Yep. So many times I could have cracked that fetch land and had the land, but Stoneforge Mystic, sure. Searching up a Batter Skull. Hopefully, okay, never mind. You have the third land. Hopefully we can run them down before Batter Skull becomes an issue. Get a 1/1 Spirit, which really doesn't do us a whole lot, but does clear the way for a blocker. We have a Thalia. 2 cards in hand. Equipping Batter Skull, sure. Another Thalia coming down. Make sure to be able to have a cantrip available here. Yep, they had to have every single one of those lands too. Otherwise they'd just be dead. So now we need a burn spell, Path to Exile, something. Wow, close matchup. Nice to beat a notable grinder like Will Pulliam too. Especially on what's not a great matchup for us. What a hand. This hand is decent. Have both of our colors, and we have a fairly reasonable aggression hand. Obviously, this hand would be much better on the play. Well, hello there, blue-white control. You make things interesting, I suppose. Somebody did well with a blue-white control list recently, if I remember correctly, on Twitter, but, you know, blue-white control gonna blue-white control. Not playing anything else into this. If they want to pass something, we'll bolt or whatever in response post-combat. Trigger. Or if they're going to try to block with a snap, we have a bolt here. Okay, another Celestial Colonnade. Opt into a Terminus. Is that what it looked like you're looking for here? I do think we grab the Sacred Foundry and go ahead and bolt their face here. Get the path, I think they would have used it already anyway, so hopefully. Alright, another opt, sure. Opponent with plenty of options. Wow. Start by casting a Seal of Fire, see if they do anything in response here. Trigger me this, Batman. Teferi. Why would you path Goblin guy? That doesn't seem like the correct thing to be pathing. Not too much I'm playing around in the main deck of a blue-white control list. They're main decking Timely Reinforcements, God bless them. They wanted it more than we did. So no reason to play anything into anything here. So now they have to have 2 copies of Force of Negation to win here. Or not win, to not die, I should say, actually. Good chance they have 1. Nope. Opponent just got nothing. Alright. So we want the vortexes and we want the relics, at least some number of them, possibly all of them. Go down Rift Bolts because number 1, we're bringing in Roiling Vortexes, and number 2, our opponent might have Teferi Time Raveler in their deck, which makes that a very prohibitive card. As to the other cuts, probably cut 2 Skewer and 1 Seal. The reason to cut Skewer is it's going to be harder to cast for its 1 mana Spectacle cost. And Seal of Fire because while it is a 1 mana trigger for Monastery Swiftspear, its overall raw damage count's a lot lower, obviously. So the priority with this hand is resolving Roiling Vortex. It's also to keep our life total below our opponents if possible. Okay, so we want D-Rev in game number 2? Sure. Logic Knot, good to know about. Hopefully they don't have a fetch land here and that Logic Knot becomes irrelevant. Attacking with Goblin Guide here first. We really want them to answer this, like with a Path or something. Another Celestial Colonnade. You know you want a Path. Throw your hands up in Path. Sure. Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with that result. So I need to be mindful of my life total a little bit here. So I'm going to go ahead and play Roiling Vortex and pass, since our spells are all kind of dead right now. I do think we are losing this game because they have Leyline as a out. You missed the first 2 matches, Lucarian. So we beat Wilpullium on Death and Taxes, and we lost to the 3-color Jund decks. Alright, we can't target them. Delightful. Really don't want to run out this Swift Spear, especially since we really want to hold on to our life gain thing. Target player draws 2 cards, sure. This feels like a game we're going to lose. Mainly because I wasn't expecting them to have whatchamacallit. Playing this into a known Logic Knot, I'm fine with the result. Yeah, we know they have Logic Knot in hand. Can't really afford to take down our whatchamacallit here. So the positive side of this equation is the fact that we are ahead in the race. The negative side is that our opponent has a ton of ways to bounce Roiling Vortex whenever they want to. Cryptic commands to fairies. Snapcaster. Because we can stop Blessed Alliance here, so I actually kind of actively want them to cast it. All right. That's adorable. Absolutely adorable. This is kind of another reason why I'm glad we have Bonecrusher Giant, is just another body in a Leyline and Sanctity matchup. Yep. Still think we're obviously behind in the race, and they have Celestial Colonnades. So probably need a counter spell, because they can't really afford to let something like this resolve. Snapcaster, target path in response. Depends on what they target here. I may have to crack a relic. Tough decision, isn't it, friend? Decide to target Logic Knot, eh? So I think my play here is to crack a relic. I would love to Lightning Bolt this Snapcaster while they're low on mana, but at the same time, I really just want to kind of keep things at parity right now. I'm going to take the opportunity to bolt this here, or at least try to. Like, obviously this deals us more damage, but at the same time, with us being in a lower life total, timely reinforcements isn't relevant. They're pathing their own dude. Okay. Gotta be mindful of the spells we cast here. Okay, are they gonna tuck the Eidolon? Yeah, they're just gonna draw a card. No, they're not dead. We soon will be, though. So they have 2 cards in hand. I think I kind of go for it here. Does that leave me just dead to Celestial Colonnade? Guess I can't just go for it this turn, because then I'd just be dead to Celestial Colonnade. Looks like that's what they're going for here. If only they were just attacking with a colony, it would be in such great shape. Gonna Tarkus command, put them to 2. We go to, we block colony, and we block the one of the soldiers, and then we're just dead. Is there any other play we could make? Not with a... I'm not going to remind them that a Tarkus command has that weird mode on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and concede here. Go on to the next game. Now we have the debate of how many destructive revelries we want to bring in. Gonna bring in at least 3, I think. Because I was thinking I could attack if they didn't block, they were dead. But they have no reason not to block, and then we're dead to the crackback with Colonnade. So even if I hadn't played Swift Spear, we would have been at 6. I guess if we didn't play Swift Spear, I'd be at 6. I could Tarkus command to block, which would put us to 4, and no, we'd still be dead, even if I hadn't played, because the Roiling Vortex would have killed us during our own upkeep. This hand is interesting. Problem being is that I still think it's a keep against blue-white control. The mana situation obviously is bad, but the cards in our hand are supremely good. So opponent going down for resources, trying to find Leyline. We obviously need to draw a green source at some point this game. Yep, they're obviously relying on Leyline to go quite a bit of distance. So one of the unique things about our build is we are a little bit better situated against Leyline of Sanctity, so it's not quite the KO that it is for a lot of decks. Green source. Well, it's a card, I suppose, so we should be thankful. Or a land, I should say. Thankful for that, at least. That's Eidolon, I guess. Wow, deck. Just wow. Obviously, we are shields down to a timely reinforcements this turn. Come on. Doing this post-combat, not a particular reason not to. Right, I can't trigger that, so sure. It's card on top, so timely reinforcements most likely. Teferi would also make sense, I guess. Supreme Verdict. Yeah, that's fine. Green Source, finally. Not playing around Spell Pierce here, am I? Card is obnoxious. See if they block with all three or if they just chump block. 1, 2, 3. So I think I have to hold up my mana this turn in case they have snap. So our opponent could be playing Blessed Alliance here. Or we know we actually saw a Blessed Alliance out of them one of these games. Yep. Targeting timely reinforcements, sure. Exactly the play that I was playing around. I personally don't think they have a counterspell now. I think they would have allowed if they did hold on to a counterspell, God bless them. But I think they would have countered something with that timely reinforcements on the stack. Smile for the camera, D-bag. Be back in 1 sec, actually. I'm going to go stretch my legs for a sec. There's the deck list. I think I actually don't have the deck list up on Stream Decker. I'll be right back in 1 sec. Yeah. Yeah. So my opponent basically said, "Herder, I play burn." Is what was said. That's called my opponent was packing Blessed Alliances, Timely Reinforcements, Leyline of Sanctities, and still lost to burn. So the salt was real. Obviously, no lander can't keep. His hand's a little bit suspect, but I think we have to keep a 6-card hand. Playing back one of the fetch lands. Against someone named Jund decide. I don't know if I'm in a hurry to empty my hand or not, so I'm just going to pass here. Can bolt if I have to. I can fetch a tapped Stomping Ground otherwise. So what I did was wrong. I'm not going to sit here and claim my reaction was the best to my opponent. But it really annoys me when people are like, "Oh, I play burn, da 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 da." Like, well, you know, there is some skill with this deck. So if we're up against Infect, am I supposed to bolt this? I feel like I'm supposed to bolt this Noble Hierarch here to draw out a potential mutagenic growth. Guess they didn't have it anyway. Okay, Goblin God's pretty good here. Feels like we're up against Infect. Nope, we're up against a brew. A brew that has an Uro in it. It's an interesting combination of cards. Okay. Another Noble Hierarch, sure. Just has to die. Trigger, Force of Negation. That's actually really bad for the home team here. So that means they get to Uro and we can't stop them. Well, actually, yeah, they get to Uro here. I already know this isn't likely to succeed, but I wonder how many blue cards they actually have. Oh, wow. They have Force of Negation, but not another blue card? Interesting. Well, so I've played almost every major archetype in Modern to some degree at least. Now, I'm not an expert by any means, and I'm not going to sit here and claim that I am the most gifted player of every archetype there is. I'm just saying I've played with and against almost every major archetype in the format. And the thing that I will say is that Burn is one of the simpler decks as far as... Are they really going to Force of Negation this and not have negation something else? Okay. I mean, I guess they're getting closer to Uro here, but it does seem a little suspect. I did that because I'm not going to play the Seal of Fire, and I really didn't want to expose my Canopy land to a Field of Ruin activation here, which felt like what was going to be part of their turn this turn. Burn is one of the simpler decks to play the general mechanics of. Like, it's really easy to pick up the general mechanics of Burn. The finer details are a little bit more difficult as far as like hands to mulligan, hands to keep, a lot of different those kind of things. So I greatly so we're dead, right? Yeah, I think we're pretty dead here. So put them to 4. Virtual 2. They go back to 5. I think I'm going to protect my Copperline Gorge and just not play it this turn. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered there. Wow. Okay, I guess it doesn't particularly matter because they're getting Uro back here, but I felt like a particularly aggressive Force of Negation. So what is the point of the Noble Hierarchs, I'm curious? Like, it feels like an unnecessary vulnerability, like turning on fatal pushes and stuff that don't need to be turned on. Crack this, but I think we're about to concede. Yeah. Unanswered arrows are just brutal, brutal cards. So we're going to cut our Rift Bolts and our Seal of Fires. Now obviously Seal is good against our Noble Hierarchs, but I don't know how relevant they actually are in this matchup. Do that, bring in one Seal of Fire back in. Like, I would say the most difficult deck to pilot in the modern format. Wow. This is a hand. Unfortunately, no, I don't like Path against Uro. Damage is already done at that point. They've already gained 6 life or 3 life, and we're giving them 2 lands. Just not good. If they get our own play, we're dead anyway, pretty much. This is what I'm talking about, like, Boros, though, is, like, the sheer amount of, like, 2-drop spells with the 1 lander. Like, as good as this hand is with another land, we just can't keep this. This hand's okay. It's not, like... So... Looking at this hand, obviously it's a keep. The card we get rid of here is Skewer the Critics because it's the hardest to turn on. So, are we about to get hit by a Leyline? I was going to say, if we get hit by another Leyline, then we're just, there's nothing we can do in this matchup. Just going to crack this, grab a Stomping Ground, play out a Seal of Fire in case they have a Noble Hierarch here. Let's grab a basic land. We're already behind on the life race. I do think we have to grab a basic here, though. Though it's not great against the Path and Field of Ruin deck. This feels like it's going to earn a Force of Negation. Like, yeah, this is the card you Force of Negation, friend. Ice Fang Codal. Looks like they're playing an older version of... Yeah, it looks like they're just 3-color with Codal. Is it possible we're up against some type of, like, Snowblade deck? That would be a reason to play... Problem is we need to rip like a relic like right now. Probably the hardest deck to get the mechanics of, at least in Moderns, probably still Amulet Titan. Although, yeah, I'd still say it's probably Amulet Titan. Scale of 1 to Skewered. How skewered are we? No pun intended. Bolt your face. Like in Legacy, I can't say I don't have enough like testing with the the decks, but in Modern, I'd probably say Amulet Titan's probably still the hardest deck to pilot correctly. Noble Hierarch, sure. Swing 2. Alright, swing nothing. Not going to use any resources here. Just going to go to the face. Might be incorrect here. Don't like playing out our fetch land there, but at the same time, bluffing a spell isn't going to do us any good with no cards in hand. Well, I got the multiple Noble Hierarchs going here. Oh, they are a Stoneforge deck. Well, another deck that is actually surprisingly difficult to gauge correctly is Neoform. Like, that is one of those decks that's just like, yeah, we're just dead here. So to here, guess we attack in, force them to do the thing. But I was like, the Noble Hierarchs were giving me some Stoneforge Mystic vibes. Like, this was a deck that was a thing. So they can Uro regardless anyway. Well, if there's a thing such as sheer dumb luck that could get us out of this, that is a card that could do it. Problem we have here, right, is like we're forced to do this now. Like, I might have done this during their upkeep, but I was hoping maybe to get them to tap mana for Uro here. Yeah, this is like a deck almost right out of when I went to the PTQ this time last year. Except they were playing like Resto Angels because Uro wasn't printed. Was Uro printed yet? Yeah. No, Uro wasn't printed yet, so Path to Exile. So I did slightly screw up. The other thing I could have done was block first, then I could seal a fire my own Swift Spear, but I don't think there's any like combination of cards here to get this out of this, so just gonna block. And there's no cards that get us out of this, so especially not another land. Alright, it's been a heck of a ride to the 2-2 so far. So, one final match to go in the magic portion of things. Once again, after this, I'm going to do the wrap-up, and then I'm going to be switching over to World of Warcraft, starting to do a little bit of World of Warcraft streaming. This is a really hard hand to lay down, you know? This hand has 2 1-drops and a spell, but the 4 lands just can't keep this. This hand's pretty solid. Probably once again put back either Skewer or Lava Spike here. Once again, gonna put back Skewer. Obviously, it can target creatures, but it's a little bit more situational to be able to turn on. And we're up against another blue-white X deck. Hopefully it's not an Uro pile, but if it is... well, that resolves. That's positive, I guess. Another downside, obviously, is having 2 of our basics in our hand here, which means at some point their Path Exiles are just going to become freebies. Okay, it looks like they're the Omnath pile. Num 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 off. Yeah, that's the... Yeah, they're the Omnath pile. We need to draw a... and we don't. So if they have Omnath... They have Aminaminaminath, we're in trouble. I'm going to play the Skewer here. I'm not going to play the Seal of Fire because I really want to crack the Sunbay Canyon looking for a green source for Omnath. This is what our hand allows us to do. Presuming you have an answer. Sure. It's actually kind of a good thing we didn't draw a green source-ish. Yep. Oop. Good old Uro piles. How I hate thee. Guess we... Actually, no, we don't. We don't want to give them a chance to just, like, randomly put a card in the graveyard. may have to do something crazy like use a cryptic command to bounce a land of ours. Yep. So yeah, that's potentially a premature concession. But without access to a Tarkus command, we're just basically dead here. Definitely want the relics. Definitely want the vortexes. Might want some amount of path for Omnath in addition to whatchamacallit. Do that and do that. Reshave a skewer. Like I said, I don't like path against just Uro, but I think against whatchamacallit, it's fine. Against Omnath, it's fine. This hand's pretty good, although the 3-lander is a little bit questionable. Opponent's got an Uro. That, as they say in the business, is a pretty good draw. Actually, probably better than Roiling Vortex here, because they could easily have Force of Negation in their hand. Path to Exile. Unfortunate. It's taking 6 this turn. 7. Pathing we. Yes. Going to 12 and then 9. Then pause. Actually, no, they can't hold up Force of Negation during their turn, so this Uro's good as useless. I keep forgetting that Force of Negation is not castable during our opponent's turn, at least for free. Trigger to fairy. It goes to 4. Yeah. And it's legacy only. I do think Force of Negation is a fairly decent balanced magic card. It does what it's supposed to do. As annoying as it can be to play against, it does what it's supposed to do. Okay. So, even if you have a counterspell, you are dead here. Bazinga! Don't think there's anything we can change up, so we have to submit. This hand's okay. Like, this is the kind of hand that can play a long game against Uropile, but you still don't want to play a long game against Uropile. I still think it's a hand we keep, though. Uropile kind of sucks to play against. Can't really cast out. Can we tap out for Roiling Vortex? Which means they have to have exactly Uro next turn to punish this line. Good chance this is getting Force of Negation. It is not. Okay. They're not playing Uro. That is good for the home team. I think we just play the waiting game, folks. Their plan is fielded, it seems. So they're just dead. No, I screwed up on the math here. I screwed up on the math because these are only two. I was thinking they were. This is only 6 points of damage. Their first land drop gains them life next turn. Actually, no, it doesn't. We good. Just play idle on here. I mean, they get to have a crazy turn next turn, but at least they don't get to gain life. Should have held up my green source here. So if they have another interactive spell here, we're just dead regardless, so we have to go for the kill. Because Omnath plus Rolling Vortex just kills us next turn. So this is the play that we're lined up into. They have another interactive spell, we're dead. Notably, their interactive spell cannot be Force of Negation. Don't know what took so long to think there, but... If I would have double Bonecrusher the Omnath, we would have still been in this game, but because I miscalculated the damage, thinking these were 3s, instead of just killing the Omnath, we're just dead. Is there anything we can do to get around that? No, because the problem is if I, like, skewer the critics them, puts me to 4, then Omnath just kills me. So I couldn't, like, crack Sunbay Canyon in response to kill them. So I think we're just dead here. Just because I screwed up with these Bonecrusher Giants. And they had 2 pieces of 2-mana interaction there. Maybe they'll forget to attack with their dude. I don't know. Seems unlikely. Yeah, plus they get to gain life here, so... Incredibly close matchup, but not to be, unfortunately. So... Oh, stay a lightning bolt anyway, so none of the lines we took mattered anyway. Gotcha. So thoughts on this build of the deck? We played a lot of tough matchups today. We played against the new, well, one of the variants of the new Jund Death Shadow decks. We played against 2 Uro piles, a blue-white control deck that had like Ley Lines, Blessed Alliances, and Timely Reinforcements, and then we also played against Mono White Death and Taxes with Wilpolium, who's known as SCG Grinder. So we likely should have gone 3-2. There were a couple of facts that I overlooked. Screwing up the damage calculations with the Bonecrusher Giant was a problem. I should have just killed Omnath, which even if they had Force of Negation, they still take 5 damage, and then we might be able to kill them the next turn anyway. And then, which they couldn't have had Force of Negation because they were tapped out on their turn. So we should have killed the Omnath, which would have been a boon for us. Would have played a little bit longer game, and I think Rolling Vortex would have been in our favor then. So we might have been able to pull out that game despite all their interaction. And then the the second game against 3-color Uro Blade, or whatever you want to call it, I should have recognized with the Noble Hierarchs that our opponent was on a more creature-based variant, and might have, because I even mentioned somewhere in the thought process that I thought they might be on a Stoneblade variant, so we might have like sideboarded a little bit differently than we did. So lots of stuff in play today. We're playing against 5 pretty bad matchups overall for Burn, which, you know, the fact that this version almost pulled out a 3-2 if I would have played better, it's kind of insane. So, you know, can't really complain there. So I think overall for a 2-3, this was a pretty successful league for the Burn deck. So once again, I appreciate everybody hanging out. If you're just here for the Magic content, I completely understand. And I'm going to be wrapping up the recording here. I'm going to be switching over to some World of Warcraft as the title noted.